All right, next team on our list coming into, as we count down, at number 8. It's a team that was really disappointing last year. A lot of people were picking the Utah Utes to get to Arlington. A lot of people just assumed that they would continue the run of success that they had in the Pac-12. What they did not count on was Cam Rising missing even more time after we were just assured that everything was fine and everything was going to be great and he was going to come right into the Big 12. But this year is going to be different. They finished 5-7 last year, 2-7 in Big 12 play. This year's going to be different because they are completely overhauling the offensive skill positions. They go get Devin Dampier from New Mexico, and Devin Dampier is the best quarterback you've never heard of if you don't watch Mountain West football, because he was absolutely electric. He almost, not single-handedly, but pretty much single-handedly, almost got New Mexico to a bowl game last year at 5-7 before Bronco Mendenhall went off to return home. 31 total touchdowns last year at New Mexico. They bring up his offensive coordinator,
Jason
Beck. Thank you. Yeah, Jason Beck, and the wide receiver Ryan Davis from New Mexico as well. So they're really trying to capture that magic that they had in Albuquerque last year. It's an offense that a lot of people are buying into. I think the only question that I have is, can Devin Dampier just take care of the football? I think a lot of that last year was him trying to force things and force balls into windows that he shouldn't have. But he can rely on his running game. He can rely on his receivers a lot more here. He probably won't be running for his life as often behind this Utah offensive line that I think is going to be a strength.
Yes, absolutely should be 5. I believe all 5 starters.
All 5 are back. Yeah.
Are back. So yeah, Dampier should have the Great Wall of Utah in front of him. I wrote that it's Operation Lobo to save the offense, bringing over Dampier and Beck and Davis. They go get Wayshawn Parker, who had a nice freshman season up on the Palouse for Washington State, and then they bring in a thumper, kind of the thunder to Parker's lightning from Utah State as well. So the rushing attack, the overall athleticism for this Utah team, it has me buying in. It has me growing more and more confident that Utah can get back to what we expected them to do last year. Utah started 3-0 while Cam Rising was healthy, and then he breaks his hand, or I've forgotten exactly what happened, but in that game against Baylor, and is never to be seen again. Medically retires after the season, and that's all she wrote. The Cam Rising saga just kind of comes maybe to its like most poetic end, which was tough after just a tremendous career that he had and getting them to the Rose Bowl and all the great things that he did for that program. The defense on the other side, Trey, despite going 5-7 and literally losing all 7 games in a row, they started 4-0. They did win that Oklahoma State game, and then they lose 7 in a row before finally beating UCF. Still had a top 30 defense. I mean, Morgan Scalley is a defensive genius. He's head coach in waiting. We don't know exactly when Kyle Whittingham is going to retire, but I did write, if Utah has a nice season and it feels like a good transition period, they get to 9 wins, maybe they get to 10 wins, who knows? Then I feel like that's when Scalley is able to take over the reins from Whittingham. You can retire Kyle, a legend, and this program moves forward under a new regime. But until then, Morgan's just going to keep calling top 30 defenses, and I think there's a really good chance that they're even better this year. Certainly shouldn't be any different. The front 4 is maybe the one position group that needs to get their feet under them early. They've got Logan Fano back at edge, but other than that, they're a little bit inexperienced up at the front. The linebackers, they get some nice pieces back. Lavani Damuni comes back from an injury that cost him almost all of 2024. And then in the secondary, they've got some new faces, some new starters at least, but Elijah Davis, Smith Snowden are going to be the names to know at corner. And then Tal Johnson is one of the best safeties that maybe you've never heard of as well.
Yeah, Tal Johnson is an awesome player. You mentioned the D-line being maybe the biggest question mark on the defense. I'm honestly fine with that because I think we can set our watch by Utah having at least a serviceable defensive line at this point. I trust that staff to get it done on the defensive line. And yeah, that defense was a thing of beauty to watch. There was nothing going right on the offensive side of the ball for large stretches last year. I think I'm high on Utah, and I think the betting market is surprisingly high on Utah. If you look at the graphic that we have on the screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube, The over under 7.5, but the over is the overwhelming
Yeah.
betting favorite at minus 170. The title odds is what surprised me. You might look at plus 600 and not think that that's much, but in the context of the Big 12, that's tied for the second best odds to win the Big 12 behind just Kansas. I think Kansas State is at plus 550 as the odds on favorite on FanDuel right now.
Kansas State is the best?
That's what I saw today when I was making these graphics.
Interesting.
So
okay.
It's an interesting betting market, but there's like 5 or 6 teams between plus 550 and plus 800. I think like they're all bunched up there together at the top. Okay. So it's not like that much breathing room there. The schedule's interesting to me as we transition to talking about how many games Utah can actually win this year. I'm fascinated by the opener at UCLA. It's going to be a late night kick, 11 o'clock Eastern on Fox. So we'll be watching that one as we record our week 1 live show, most likely. And I'm really interested to see how that one plays out at UCLA. It feels like a big game for the trajectory of both of those programs in 2025. I mentioned Wyoming being plucky for Colorado. It's even pluckier if you have to go to Laramie. That is not a fun place to play historically for power conference teams. Highest elevation in college football, so that's always interesting. Probably a little easier to adjust from boys from Salt Lake City. But the conference play opens brutally. In their first 4 games, they're Texas Tech, at West Virginia, back home against Arizona State, and then the Holy War at BYU. After that, it kind of softens up a little bit. They do host Kansas State later in the year and go to Baylor, but those first 4 are going to tell us a lot about if Utah is going to actually compete for anything of relevance in the Big 12 or if they're going to just be fighting for a bowl game.
And I love that we're at, what is Utah ranked? 8? Is that right? 8 in the rankings?
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that we're at 8 and we're like, well, Utah could win 3 out of these 4 pivotal games and we'll see in Arlington and they'd be a favorite to win the Big 12 championship game. They could also go 6-6 if it doesn't go their way. Like, this is the beauty of the Big 12, and it's what makes pontificating about it so much fun and such a challenge as well, because inevitably we are going to have the icest cold takes when it comes to this conference, just because you either have to commit to something or you ride the fence. And obviously in the first episode, we did a lot of fence sitting, mostly because of the new transfers, right? Oklahoma State has 62 new faces on board. I don't really know what to tell you about what they're going to do when it comes to their season schedule. Utah, though, similar to, I think, my thoughts on TCU, if the offense can click, and I think if they can have a nice balance between the passing and the running game, this is a physical team. And you know the defense is going to be hell on wheels for a lot of these other conference opponents. Utah is one of those teams in the Big 12 that no matter if they're up or down, I feel like they're going to be the team you do not want to see on your schedule. You are thanking the league office in Las Colinas, Texas, when Utah does not appear on your team's schedule. And so as difficult as it is with the contenders, the other contenders that they end up playing, they do get Texas Tech at home. They do get Arizona State at home. They get Kansas State at home. Getting some of those big boys within the friendly confines, you flip it around on these other teams' schedules, who a lot of them we have yet to talk about, and we'll talk about in the third episode on Friday. Utah becomes one of those 2 or 3 games that you pencil in as must wins if they're going to be the conference champion, right? And so I think that's a huge vote of confidence for what the Utes will bring to this season. And I don't know exactly how it's going to shake out, but boy, it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch.
The other thing, last thing I'll say on Utah, that I love to look at record in close games as a potential indicator of, hey, if we just fix 1 or 2 things. Utah was 1-5 in 1 possession games last year. So that is trending up for me. And most of those were just because the offense could not put points on the board. They put up 19 against Arizona State on the road, lost by 8. They put up 7 against TCU, lost by 6. Put up 14 at Houston, lost by 3. Yeah. I can keep going. Lost by 1 against BYU in a game that they only put up 21. So you can really paint the picture pretty easily of Devin Dampier and the rest of that Lobo inflection coming in and making a case to make that offense a lot better and flip some of these games. So I'm excited. I think the Big 12 is going to be more fun if Utah is relevant in the conference discussion, because such a cool place to play, such a cool scene up there in Salt Lake City for the Utes.